An epic poem about the worst film director of all time by Damian Westfall. Prefatory quotes. Flag on the Moon. How'd it get there? The Beast of Yucca Flats by Coleman Francis. Push a button. Things happen. The Beast of Yucca Flats by Coleman Francis. Part 1. Moses ascends a magic mountain. Go forth, Moses, with your sheep. You must always walk in the light. Your herd of bushy sheep need to be shorn. Walking in my Savior's soul. Go up, Moses. Go on up that mount. Get right, church, and let's go home. Go up the far side of Mount Kushmar, 'cause his blood can make me whole. For you must herd the sheep of your wife's father, Lupo the butcher, Perrier liaison, Christie's weird liaison, Carrie's gay liaison. Gonna be here with you with the tales you told me from before that open door. Man or boy, dead or alive, divine or evil, you must be walking away from the sins of the world a la mode with heavy cream and sprinkles and cherries. Why, you ask? Because you weren't man enough to satisfy me, as Divine singeth. See Divine, twisting the night away, with your hard magic shooting your shot in tight blue jeans and tighty whities, which, as we know, contain IMPURE energies. Go ask little Nellie and she'll tell you all about Colombia, Brazil, Honduras, and Argentina. Beware! Beware! Beware of darkness! Shouts the old long-haired gray man. In the dead of night, it can hurt you. And that's not what you're here for. As you wander aimlessly in these pointless mires, you must go, Moses. Thou shalt herd and shepherd Lupo's sheep. Let them graze and move about and walk and sit and feed and water and purge and so on and so forth. And thou shalt do this for several days. And by the way, Madre Lupetti, the butcher's wife, has made blissful meals for your consumption. Roast beast, turkey and mutton, mustard and bread, steak and fries, crepes a go-go, eggs Florentine, rocks and sand, what? Salt and pepper, T-bone steak, T-bone Walker, eggs and sausage, hash browns and duck, toast and pastrami, lamb and ham, stacks of pancakes, baked potato, hot patootie, sole filet, corned beef, haggis, and Waldorf salad. With a fresh and bitter water supply contained in a ram's bladder. So take thy rod and thy staff and lead those sheep out of confinement Freedom! Freedom! In that gated field they now lullen, so go and walk the mount. Go up the mountain and be a shepherd today. I know thee well, booms Lupo the butcher. I know thee well, O haughty-toddy prince of Egypt, or should I say slave prince, or house Jew, accustomed to luxury and sloth, now still unaccustomed to life in the country. The life of a bucolic tale, like the one about Heffier, the randy shepherd's boy, and Caroline, the blonde and willing head shepherd's daughter, who on her father's drunken nights, lo, a candle is lit. As seasoned but youthful steps make their midnight creep, because Heffier is a backdoor man. And the result is, ooh, right there. And oh, more. And oh, bliss and blessed saints alive. Which all ends with a loud cry of, blah. And then, as the mood shifts, the man, Heffier, asks Caroline, would you care for a cigarette? And Caroline smiles and shivers and goes, mais oui. You're 500 miles away from home. But that's not you, Moses. You're no longer Heffier, the bucolic stud, because you're legally wed to Lupo the butcher's baby girl. It was a shot gut vetting, but at least the pure deer's happy and full. And you can no longer do the mess around, or the Watusi, or the twist, or the mashed potatoes and gravy, or the dirty boogie, with your 4 skinless mace of mass. Oh, no. You taken. You wed. You better off dead. And what with Wifey, and Moses Jr., and Billy, and Johnny, and little Susie, and Auntie M, and Uncle P, and Granddad Thruppence, and Cousin Render under Kaisers. What is Kaisers? Yes, you must work. And if you must work, you well-manicured prince of shit, you must work for Big Daddy, and Mags the cat, and Old Black Joe, and the Southern Belle, and Laura and her creaking hip, and Night of the Lasagna. So go to work, you spoiled brat, and out of door, and up the mountain you go. And you shall take the sheep with you, and don't come back for a fortnight, or I'll send you back to Akhenaten, the long-headed alien they call Pharaoh. Now, did you hear me, Karma Boy? Get, or I'll make a mountain of mummy of ya. Go. Yes, Moses. Go west, boy. Westward, whore. Go to the central cosmic mountain of the earth. Get yourself $1 worth. That's certain that Jodorowsky-esque holy and sacred magic mountain, on whose ascent you will make with 25 sheep and 2 dogs. And step by step, the sandal lifts the foot up, another step, and then the other, as clouds of brownish and grayish powder dusty spread from off the earth, enveloping the feet in your sandals. Sandals du jour. About 4 years ago. Elegant sandals, but not necessarily for heavy use. But still, they raised his feet as they make another step and then another. You would climb the mighty Devil Mountain, the sacred mountain, the impossible mountain. So be it. You will go up. You will go to the west side of the mountain, and you will shepherd and shorn there, and come back in 15 days or so, or we'll call out the cavalry and bring your ass back. Bring your ass back, dead or alive, and you better bring those sheep, and those sheep better be shorn. Amen, shouts Lupo the butcher, who then grunts and spits a wad of phlegm on the west wall of his abode. Lupo the butcher's daughter's name is Sally. Sally runs to yon husband and pleads with him to stay at home right where he is, because she feels and suspects that last night's dream about getting the clap was indeed an ominous omen. I did it all for you. But Moses, who is now histrionically suited to the mood of the whole scene, swells his pigeon chest and casts her aside, and in his best Mahatma voice says, I've got to do what I've got to do. And Sally weeps. She weeps copious tears which flood the family home as Dodo and Rat swim to shore for a caucus. But before he can mosey, Moses' ma-in-law stands before him and gives him an unintelligible plea to stay home right where he is. Why, ma-in-law? Why would you have me stay? Asks Moses. Ma-in-law's body shivers and shakes as she screams aloud, Sticks and snakes pure evil makes. Moses pauses for a brief moment and then looks up sharply at the portrait on the wall of Lupo the butcher's progenitor, Old Kim, the huntsman, which hangs above the mantel, and he pulls out a long skeletal key and puts it in the frame's hole, and cranks that mamma jamma, and the automated Old Kim shakes robotically, and he shouts, Do what thou wilt. And thus, with that, Moses is off like a pocket rocket in a pair of yellow sweats, and out he goes. And up he goes. With 5 and 20 sheep and 2 dogs, and up and up and up Mount Kushmar does he ascend. And then, in there, when he was fully up the mountain, when he was fully alone, or so he thought, Moses. Who is that? Moses. Who's there? Turn around and see me. Moses turns around, and he opens his eyes and sees the lighted bush that flames but does not burn. And Moses says, Who are you by the blood of Christ? And the burning plant spoke thus. The voice said, I am I. Now, just for reference, I'm pausing this. Just for reference, Eliot is Cass. Jimmy is David Remus. And I, in some small ways, am Amish Wilbur. So this is only for us. Part 2. VCR shenanigans with Hamish, Eliot, and Jimmy. Hamish. Is it on? Eliot. I think so. Hamish. Is it? Eliot. I think it's on. Hell, I don't know. Hamish. Well, did you... Eliot. Hamish. I know, but did you press play? Eliot. I did. Hamish. What does the VCR say? Eliot. It says it's playing. Hamish. It's working on the... Eliot. Yeah, it's playing. Jimmy. Are you guys even on the right channel? Hamish. We don't go by channels on this mamma jamma. Jimmy. Right on. Eliot. We don't? Hamish. What? Eliot. We don't go by channels on this thing? No. Eliot. Then what? What do we do? Hamish. It's always on video 2. Eliot. Video 2? Hamish. Yeah. Eliot. Are we on video 2? Hamish. Well, that's what I'm saying. Eliot. What? Hamish. It's always on video 2, bro. Trust me. I never change it. Eliot. Maybe it's on the wrong channel. Hamish. I just told you that. Wait. What are you doing? No, don't. Eliot. No, I think it's on the wrong channel. Hamish. Dude, don't. I know my own VCR and TV. Eliot. Shit, what the hell's this? Hamish. It's static, you dumb man. Jimmy. Would you guys turn that down, please? I can't fucking stand that noise. Eliot. What did I do? Hamish. You fucked it all up. Eliot. I know, but... Hamish. You totally... Eliot. I know, but how do I get out of it? How do I get it working? Hamish. Maybe it was on video 1. Jimmy. Turn down that fucking volume, guys. Shit, I hate that noise. That static noise. Hamish. Wait. Eliot. Is it... Hamish. Wait, let me tell you. Eliot. Just tell me. Hamish. Okay. Press input. No, not there. On the TV. Eliot. Where's the remote? Hamish. There is no remote. Eliot. No remote? How do you... Hamish. It's on the set. Eliot. What? Hamish. It's on the... It's the button to the right of channel up. Eliot. Oh, I see it. Hamish. Just press it. Jimmy. Dude, Eliot. Just let Hamish do it. Eliot. Hold on. I got it. Just hold on. Okay, I pushed it. Hamish. Okay, now press the volume buttons to choose input. Jimmy. No, not video 1, Eliot. Eliot. Shut up, Jimmy. Jimmy, you shut up, fool. God, I can't stand that sound. Hamish. Okay, here. I'll turn down the fucking... Eliot. See? Hamish. What? Eliot. It was on video 1. Hamish. That's impossible. Eliot. I'm sorry, but when you rule out your version of the story... Hamish. What the fuck are you talking about? Eliot. I'm talking about... Jimmy, for Christ's sake, turn down that goddamn static noise. Hamish. Okay, I will, but we got to do this first. Jimmy. Why? Hamish. It's on the input menu. Jimmy. Yes, and? Hamish. And if you press volume down... Jimmy. Yes. Hamish. It's not going to turn down the sound. It's only gonna... Eliot. Oh, I see. Hamish. It's gonna... Eliot. I see now. Let me do this first. Hamish. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Eliot. Video 2. Done and done. Jimmy. Oh, thank Christ that noise is off. I fucking hate that static noise, especially when it's blasting. Eliot. Okay. Hamish. So stop the tape. Eliot. Oh, it's still playing on the... Hamish. Rewind it. Stop it and rewind it. Eliot. I am there. Hamish, now rewind it. Eliot, I know I gotta rewind it, butthole. Hamish, just let it rewind. Eliot, wait. Hamish, what? Eliot, look, it wasn't rewound from the beginning. Hamish, what? That's weird. I was sure I rewound it. Eliot, well, it's rewinding now. Jimmy, awesome, finally. Hamish, are you guys hungry? Jimmy, I don't know. Eliot, maybe. What do you got? Part 3. Hamish Wilbur's food monologue. What do we got? What do we got? We got everything. My pantry is full. I got plenty of snacks. I got every little thing your tum-tums could even think to desire. I got Cheez-Its. I got Triscuits and chicken and a biscuit. I got English muffins. I got Snickers. I got Ruffles. They have Ridges. I have Lay's. But do you have barbecue? Of course I do. I got Cheetos, puffed and crispy. I got rolled gold sticks, rolled gold twists, and rolled gold suspenders. Say what? I got peanuts, Ritz. I got Tim's Cascade. Got kettle chips. Yes, I got 'em all. Sour cream and onion, sriracha, red curry, salt and pepper, and salt and vinegar. I got all the Hostess you could ever want. I got cupcakes. Orange and chocolate both. Black bombos. We're Protestant and proud of it. Ding-dongs, Twinkies, and ho-hos. Got chocodiles. And I got donuts, glazed, powdered, and chocolate. I got gummy bears and gummy worms. I got gummy turtles and Swedish fish. I got Twix and red vines. I got sour candy and candy sweet. I got Cadbury and caramello. Got 100 grand and whatchamacallit. Got 3 Musketeers and Mars bars. I got... Do you have Little Debbie? I draw a line in the sand at Little Debbie. So what do you guys want? Let's just go up to the kitchen and see what's there. You want drinks? I got drinks. I got every soda in existence. And of course, I got Diet Pepsi, as I always have. And anything you want or desire, take it from me. Feed from my hippopotamic teat and replenish your glutton stomachs with copious amounts of non-food and quench your thirst with opaque liquid chemical compounds which ejaculate from 2-liter bottles into your highball Muppets glass. Because let me tell you, buddy, if you're not getting high or having sex or drawing or reading or what you will, at a certain point, you must eat in front of the TV. One of them isn't hungry. On the contrary, he's thirsty. Thirsty? Yeah, thirsty for bootleg liquor. Hamish asks Jimmy if he'll settle for a cigarette, and Jimmy thinks that that's a good idea, as does Hamish, who reiterates the query to Eliot, who agonizes with Jimmy, and so, thus, they arise from the comfy furniture in Hamish Wilbur's basement room. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. I'd walk a mile for a camel. Up they go, up the 12 steps, up the staircase, easy does it, through Trimalchio's banquet hall, For now, you see, they've entered flavor country. Part 4. Our three merry friends smoke cigarettes on the deck. You go through the kitchen and out onto the deck, into the dark, but only momentarily because Jimmy switches on the lights, illuminating numberless insects swarming in the night air. 8 out of 10 doctors recommend Pall Mall cigarettes. He gave all his love. Well, flick my bick and call me howdy doody. I knew what time it was. With Captain Kangaroo as Clarabelle and Buffalo Bob and the Peanut Gallery. Little Susie, what do you want for Valentine's Day? I want a box of chocolates and a bouquet of flowers. Eliot dances in the night air a soft shoe to obtain a Parliament Light 100 cigarette from Hamish Wilbur. He sings, cigarette time, gonna smoke a cigarette, huffin' and puffin', we're gonna smoke a cigarette. Hamish hands Eliot a cigarette with a, here you go. Danke, smiles Eliot, putting the cigarette in his mouth. Jimmy smokes Camel Wides tonight, not knowing that he would later change brands to Export A's from Canada, which he would eventually give up for health. Sometimes Jimmy smoked Nat Sherman's, as I recall. Good old Jimmy. He was thin as he was tall, and he even knew how to find the campy kung fu film Little Mad Guy in a clearance bin at Blockbuster Video on Mount Diablo Boulevard in Walnut Creek that one night that Hamish and Jimmy went to the city to watch this sad, atrocious kung fu movie at Jimmy's apartment that he shared with the perennial delectable Candy. The sailors say, Candy, you're a fine, what a good wife you would be. But my life, my love, and my lady is not she. Yes, as I remember, Candy had a grown-out type of Bob Dew with a magnificent smile and an incomparable bosom. Jimmy lights a cigarette first. After Hamish gives Eliot his cigarette and lights it for him, he puts the Parliament Light in his own mouth, lights it, and inhales it deeply. The silence that follows is broken unexpectedly by Eliot, who shouts out the word, Mitchell! And Hamish and Jimmy burst out laughing, Hamish then coughing great gouts of poison smoke into the night's atmosphere. Carefully observe his throat and lungs, just folding their arms and shaking their collective heads in disgust. Smoke permeates all. Funereal drisk. As they smoked and smoked till everything was coated in a deep nicotine haze, and soon the smoke was so thick and dark, they began losing perspective. Because now they were like islands in the mist. And soon the smoked smoke grew thicker and thicker. Marco Polo. Is that the Flying Dutchman? Chit-chattery chat-chat. Who or what could they be chattering about? Wherever there's a cop beating up on a guy. Eliot likes this. John Carradine plays the preacher. Hamish Wilbur likes this. Haven't seen it. Jimmy likes this. Jana is away at school. Jimmy hates this. Cigarettes are more expensive now. Nobody likes this. Oh, where did Tony Starr go Mein Riot Girl, wo weilest du? Sings Hamish Wilbur, who is mixed in his heart, which Eliot doesn't understand in the first place. Which one? Which one? What is the episode for tonight's event? It's a surprise. Well, come on, tell us, Hamish. Try and guess. Is it a hard one? Of course it's a hard one. How hard? Is it Manos? No. Is a Monster a Go-Go? Ha! Ega? No. Alien from LA? Nah. Robot Monster? No. Gamera versus Gayos? No. The Leech Woman? Nope. The Castle of Fu Manchu? You wish. Catalini Caper? Never, never. The Indestructible Man with Lon Chaney Jr.? No. The Brain That Wouldn't Die? No. Teenage Strangler? No. High School Big Shot? No. The Dead Talk Back? No. The Screaming Skull? No. Moon 02? Nope. The Crawling Hand? No. Pod People? It stinks. Mighty Jack? No. The Atomic Brain? No, siree, Bob. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians with Pia Zadora? Yet. Angel's Revenge? No. Boys. Tonight, we embark into the unknown of cinematic pain. We embark on a veritable marathon. Dude, I can't do a marathon. I got to be up early in the morning, says Jimmy. Don't be a pussy, says Hamish Wilbur. I'm not a pussy. You're the pussy. Chump change to the curb, bum. Forget tomorrow. All we have as human beings in this space and time, or even spaceless time, is tonight. Is the present moment. Stay in the present moment. Because, gentlemen, tonight, we embark on the television extravaganza of the ages, barkers Hamish Wilbur. Oh, God. Great. Here we go. Hamish Wilbur continues his pitch with great heroics and histrionics. Gentlemen, I don't believe a cinematic atrocity festival such as this, which I got planned for us tonight, has ever been attempted. And I know that after we've completed this unspeakable experience of cinematic trauma, no one will ever attempt it again. For we shall climb the mountain and say howdy-do to our maker. Eliot turns to Hamish Wilbur and says, for fuck's sake, which episode or episodes are they? A trilogy, says Hamish. What trilogy? Asks Eliot. What are you talking about? Asks Jimmy. Hamish Wilbur now stands dressed like Patton, with a ginormous upside-down American flag hung behind him. Gentlemen, we are about to mount an attempt that doth boggle the mind and its very own imagination. Gentlemen, we are about to feel exquisite pain. Gentlemen, we are about to risk our very sanities. For tonight, gentlemen, we fulfill a prophecy made by the Black Moses of Soul, Sri Elijah Moore Hemorrhoids Jones, in the 2nd century A.D., as he dwindled in some fucking cave in Kathmandu. He passed over time and his own personal mediocrity by watching reruns of What's Happening Now, and That's My Mama, and Give Me a Break, and Sanford and Son, and In the Heat of the Night, and Amen, which I particularly liked because it had that guy Chester Harrison in it who wrote that song for Lilies of the Field, and Nat X, and 227, and Family Matters, and Fat Albert, and The Cosby Show. For he has been cast down into the depths of his own sin, his own actions. And so, like I said, one day, Sri Elijah Moore Hemorrhoids Jones prophesied this. Although his prophecies amounted to little, there was that one of interest that stated that one day 3 amigos would watch a trinity of the worst picture shows had to offer in the guise of the ungodly, unfathomable, underrated, say what? Trilogy. The trilogy of trilogies. Forget the Godfather and that Star Wars nonsense. It wasn't time yet for La Cage aux Folles, or the abysmal Matrix controversy, or the infernal one I dare not mention. No, it's none of these. No. Give us a clue, asked Jimmy. A clue? A clue? Asked Hamish Wilbur. Very well, gentries. While I am sworn to secrecy and cannot tell the names of the specific queso film stinkies, such as these, still I shall give thou and thine the aspects of the 3 films. Hamish Wilbur licks his thumb and checks the directional of the wind. He looks around, carefully cocks his head, opens his ears and his eyes, as if he could hear a noise, but in reality, heard it did he none. You want clues? Hamish asks. Yeah, we want clues, cries out Jimmy and Eliot in unison. White and black. All 3 films are white and black. They all got lots of coffee, lots of chain smoking, bleak landscapes, prop planes, parachuting, emotionless staring, off-screen dialogue, off-screen action, off-screen talent, depressing auras, vigilante justice. Oh, and as I said, lots and lots of chain smoking and so much more. Is it hopeless? Are we doomed? Asked Eliot and Jimmy, who are both now bored and a little depressed. Is it worse than when you and Eliot watched all the Divine John Waters movies in one night? Oh, worse. Is it worse than when you dragged me to the UC Theater to watch Sick with Candy and Athena? Worse. Is it worse than that time you made us watch Salo, 120 Days of Sodom by the Pied Piper of Pasolini, and then wimped out and turned it off at the first male rape? Worse. Is it worse than when you showed us your familial movies? Worse. Was it worse than when you dragged us to the Fassbinder Festival at the Pacific Film Archive in Berkeley? Far worse. Was it worse than when you showed us a triple bill of Begotten, Eraserhead, and Bill Cosby and Ghost Dad? Worse. Was it worse than when you made us watch all of Andy Warhol's Empire with no bathroom breaks and no talking? Worse. Much worse. Is it worse than when you made us watch Hiroshima Mon Amour with no subtitles? Oh, so very worse than that. Is it worse than when you made us watch Ingmar Bergman's Silence of God trilogy on Easter morning? Oh, so much worse than that. What are we forgetting? Tons! Part 5. 2 words. Gentlemen, I give you 2 words. 2 words of the English language. Both pronouns of might. The 2 words that unravel the riddle which cuts the knot in half that opens the 9 gates of the city of God. 2 words that are beyond comprehension. 2 words that freeze the blood and make the cultured heart weak. 2 words, gentlemen. 2 words that would, Jimmy and Eliot cry out, "Get on with it, Hamish." All right, continues Hamish. I don't want to lose you guys on this. Here we go. Like I said, 2 words of terror and the whole bit. 2 words that would tear down the mighty and rise up the mediocre. 2 words, and those 2 words are Coleman. Oh shit. Francis. Great googly mooglies. No! Nay, niet, Pepe, wake, massa, ara, 9, nicked, no, not happening, not Coleman Francis, anything but Coleman Francis. Take our teeth out and rip out our tongues, but not Coleman Francis. Woe unto us! Woe unto we, for we have been forsaken. For lo, the earth does tremble under the terrifying might of such a name. Bones strewn about the floor of its lair, its blood-spattered walls rich with the reek of offal. Massacre upon massacre, murder upon murder, torture after torture. These are nothing in the face of that one man. And that one man's name is Coleman Francis. Pits of despair open under our feet, and pestilence and plagues rage and ravage the dead countryside, afflicted with the weight of red Coleman Francis death. Festering, rotting, infected corpses, rat-infested nights, bile and bolus of blood on top of Bald Mountain, every existing bit of slime and sin and evil and degradation, you son of a bitch, is nowhere as bad as those 2 names. Those 2 names that God himself forbid as verboten and loosed into the realm of darkness. Those 2 words. Coleman Francis. Hamish Wilbur smiles at Jimmy and Eliot and asks his 2 favorite friends, "So what do you guys think?" "Sure, okay," says Eliot. "Yeah, let's do it." Jimmy frowns and says, "I think I could do skydivers, but that's probably about it." "Nonsense," proclaims Hamish Wilbur. No, gentlemen. I say no. We must press on and mount this summit. We must climb the Mount Everest of cinematographical garbage. We must press on. Jimmy and Eliot agree to watching Coleman Francis's 3 films on Mystère Séance Théâtre 3000. Although Jimmy and Eliot clearly submit to Hamish Wilbur's plan, Hamish continues talking, continues playing the role of the media carnival barker to his 2 best friends. We must face the beast, as it is being from Yucca Flats. As it is, we must then go further and beyond into the very face of death. Yes, all the way to the apex of the dragon. Forget Plan 9 from... Wait. Sorry. Forget Plan 9 from outer space. Forget Bride of the Monster. Bella lifts his head with the last dregs of his broken dignity and intones the words, home? I have no home. Hunted, despised, living like an animal. The jungle is my home. But I shall show the world that I can be its master. I will perfect a race of super beings which will conquer the world. Starring Tor Johnson as Lobo, who's got an Angora fetish, no duh. Forget the sinister urge with its depictions of smut peddlers. Forget Scum of the Earth as well, although I do prefer it to the former. Forget Jailbait with its lurid depiction of rebellious teenage girls. Forget Glenn or Glenda with its deep and earnest plea for the acceptance of the transvestite male. Forget Night of the Ghoul with another tour de force performance by Kenny Duncan. Forget The Violent Years, which I know Edward didn't direct, but only wrote, with its infamous scene depicting a gang rape of a man by a mob of teenage girls. Forget Astro Zombies, with its battling toy robots. Forget about Cries and Whispers and The Serpent's Egg. Forget Caro Diario. Forget Winter Light. Ingmar Bergman's Winter Light doesn't even approach the depression and despair levels found in the Coleman Francis films we are about to see tonight. Forget Seeds of Sin, with its Milligan stew of dark incest and grindhouse intrigue. Forget Street Trash, as it flushes bums down the toilet. Forget Titanic, the worst film ever made. Forget all of these. I say forget them. Now listen to me carefully. There is no precedent for these 3 films. Unless Spielberg made a film adaptation based on William Styron's Darkness Visible. What are these films? The reader asks. What are they? Asks Wilbur, who then deep inhales from his cigarette. With a wicked grin. I know I've been changed, and erupts into a cacophony of devious, sadistic villain laughter. What are they? What are they? Asks Hamish Wilbur rhetorically. What on earth could they be? Just ask yourself this. What could be more depressing than the films Death in Venice, The Sorrow and the Pity, and Under the Volcano blended together as one film? One film of incomprehensible despair and deep personal emotional pain? Let's ask the people in Busy Town's Main Street what they think it could be. First, we ask a film critic who sits behind a great mahogany desk, who smokes a meerschaum pipe and says, "The worst? The worst film?" Well, let me see. So many to choose from, but I would probably be forced to tell you, whether it's Under Duress or Peace, Underwear or Sex, the worst film of all time would have to be, and I mean currently, if we consider all possible films, we would definitely conclude that if we were to pick the worst movie ever made, I, in fact, would suggest dividing the answer into two different categories. First, technologically, or as you could say, the most unskilled film made. I would have to say that is Germany's cult flick Violent Shit. But there is more we must explore. When we ask ourselves what the worst film is, we must also identify the worst film of all time, judged solely for what it stands for or represents. This category is a tricky one, for I must call on both reason and the veritable muse to decipher just who made or could have made or wanted to make or made a film which is indeed the worst film ever. The worst for what it stands for. And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is this. I must say, the worst film ever made in this category is Barbra Streisand's Prince of Tides. Let's ask someone else. Prince of Tides? I waited through all that bullshit and all I get is Prince of Tides? Let's ask somebody else. Miss Sandy Smith from Westchester County writes to us her answer. Truly, I must say to you that Precious was the worst film of all time. Audrey Milton, a sophomore from Swarthmore, tells us as she hurries to the library to study, I think that the worst movie would have to be that shitty 80s Western Tombstone, or that god-awful racist film Gods and Generals. William F. Prebox says to us, in between calls he takes at his massive desk that's piled high with stacks of papers, Pretty Woman, by far, would be my choice for the worst film of all time. A car mechanic named Joe from Flint, Michigan, told us, for my money, the worst film of all time would have to be The Fellowship of the Rings. Upon saying this controversial choice, Joe's friend and co-worker Lenny, who stands in the background covered head to toe in oil and grease with a cigarette in the center of his mouth that flaps as he talks, says, Oh, Star Wars. Star Wars is the worst movie of all time. Joe the mechanic turns to Lenny and goes, Which one? Which Star Wars film? You gotta pick one, dipshit. Lenny thinks for a moment and then says, Okay, the worst film ever is Star Wars Episode 4, The New Hope. What film could be the worst? Which one? I'll tell you which one, and this shouldn't be a surprise, because I already told you it was the third film in the Coleman Francis trilogy. What? You don't know who Coleman Francis is? Coleman Francis just happens to be a Hollywood bit player, mostly known for his role in This Island Earth as the delivery man. And and he made 3 no-budget cinematic atrocities in the 50s. Coleman Francis had a clear cinematographical vision, a gray and bleak vision of America that makes the Dust Bowl look a little less depressing than it was. He made The Beast of Yucca Flats with Tor Johnson and Tony Cardoza. And then he made Skydivers. But his magnum opus, the worst film of all time, can no longer be hidden. Nay, we must say those words. Those 3 words which make up its title. The title of the worst film ever. The name of the ultimate pain parade, which is none other than Red Zone Cuba. I hear the scattered voices of the 4 winds cry out to me. Just who the hell is Coleman Francis? And what does he got to do with the price of rice in China? And I ignore those plaintive screams and continue my narrative for whatever it's worth. Fine, says Eliot. Okay, says Jimmy. You both in? Asks Hamish. Got nothing better to do? Now you guys in. I mean like really in. I mean like you're excited about it. And Jimmy and Eliot cry out in unison, we're in already, Hamish. Jimmy goes, I think we should watch the trilogy in chronological order. Eliot says, why not watch the trilogy in degrees of pain? Are not all Coleman Francis films equal? Asks Jimmy. Eliot shakes his head and says to Jimmy, far from it. Skydivers is by far the easiest to watch. What with the crisp black and white photography. Oh, and that 5-second clip that shows a drunk man who resembles a young Tom Waits. Jimmy turns to Hamish Wilbur and goes, but I don't agree with you, Hamish. I don't think that Red Zone Cuba is the worst of the 3. What? Asks the surprised Hamish Wilbur. Why? Jimmy takes a drag off his cigarette and says to Hamish, because Beast of Yucca Flats is the worst film. You think so? Asks Hamish. Oh, by far, says Jimmy. And why is that? Asks Eliot. It just is. Technically, it's shoddier. And it's really bleak and visually depressing. There's no on-screen dialogue. And it's filled mostly with that awful narration from Coleman Francis himself. It's the worst by far. Hamish takes in a deep inhale again on his Parliament Light 100 and says confidently to Jimmy, nope. Red Zone Cuba is the worst of the 3. And to prove it, I have 3 words for you, my friend. Tasty frog legs. Jimmy shakes his head no and says it doesn't compare. Eliot says, no, I think Hamish is right. That diner scene in Red Zone Cuba is by far the most depressing scene ever committed to film. The most depressing scene. Jimmy shakes his head and spits out the word, that's bullshit, I'll prove it to you by means of comparison. You're on, shouts Hamish Wilbur. Drip, drop, drip, tears from heaven. Only one place to go when the cold wind blows, when the fields are flooded with God's rain. Where did I put my bumper shoot? We watched Alice fall into a drink me bottle. We watched Alice fall into a drink me bottle and float along the Walnut Creek. When it rains, the stream or tributary that flows through Hamish's backyard gets high and deep, and sometimes ducks float by as the Walnut Creek floods the forest-like setting of Hamish Wilbur's backyard. It's Heathcliff country back there. Ferns, firs, and other assorted fauna flow with the rippling stream out to its counterpoint, which swells and rises the level of the water all the way up to Hamish's deck, which is 12 feet above the ground. And the Lord Jah Almighty says to Noah, Noah. Noah looks up to the sky and shouts, Yes, Lord. Here I am, Lord. Hanani. Jah says to Noah, Listen, I'm going to make it rain for 30 days and 30 nights, and I will cleanse the earth with a flood. And you are going to build an ark. And you'll make it in units of cubits to my specific design. And then you'll get 2 of every animal, male and female, and you'll put them in the ark, and the great flood will come from heaven and drown the wicked, and I'll start again with your family. And Noah looked up at the ever-darkening sky and shouted to Jah, Make it rain. Make it rain. Mama Jama, I said, make it rain, and purge the earth of sin and iniquity. Hanani, here I am, Lord. Use me as you will. I'm ready, my Lord. And then it began to drip, drop, and then sprinkle, and then shower, and then pour, and then flood up the airy mountain, down the rushing glen. We dare not go a-hunting for fear of little men. Nobody ever goes in. Nobody ever comes out. I remember how Eliot loved Gene Kelly. You know, especially in that one film, All I Do the Whole Day Through is Dream of You, in which he dances with an umbrella and the lamppost. Like when Alex sings the song as he rapes Mr. Alexander's wife in A Clockwork Orange. Or Travis Bickle drives through the streets of the dirty city in his cab, waiting for the great cleansing in Taxi Driver. As many of you, I'm sure, have as well, with perhaps the same existential loneliness and bitterness as he. The salt pours into the street and mixes with the rain, and they make seawater. And then you gotta make for your little brother a paraffin-coated newspaper boat to race down the flooded gutter. But beware, son. Beware the sewer where the boat capsizes and goes in as it goes down, down, down through the grate for Pennywise to find and await you with big, sharp, pointy teeth. What an eccentric performance. We go fishing sometimes, Huck and me. And we go out on the raft and lay on our backs on our summer raft like freckle-faced boys. We caught lots of fish. They say that somewhere between the water and the earth there lived a swamp monster. But the swamp monster was never to be seen by anyone. Brad and I grew up together in Edmonds, if he can still recall. walking to the comic book shop to buy the new issue of Thru and Tales from the Crypt and Haunt of Fear and Vault of Terror and Weird Science. Yes, I would go alone to the comic book shop. Sometimes Andy would go with Brad to the baseball card store, but I never went with them because I was too busy in the comic book shop. It didn't start as a blustery day, but now it's dripping and dropping on our heroes, our three merry friends, as they finish up their cigarettes, which Hamish always does first because he smokes them so damn fast and usually has a second one just to keep up with everyone. Do you need an umbrella? No. Jimmy always finishes his cigarettes last, and so it was up to him as to when they could go back into the house as the Walnut Creek in the backyard's water level rises inch by inch. And even though they were well covered by trees and foliage, rain continues to break away through the branches and splatter on the three young men from on high. 2 puffs more, says Jimmy. I just need 2 more puffs. Holding his cigarette with his index finger and thumb, Jimmy takes 2 more tokes in swift succession and then throws the butt off the edge of the deck and into the woods and water below as it disappears from sight and mind, never to emerge again. No. Wait. That's not what happened. What actually happened. This is what actually happened. Jimmy takes the cigarette and dashes it quickly into an old dirty cig mug sitting next to him that works as a makeshift ashtray. He takes 1 suck in of smoke, and then another, and then it's bon voyage as he drops the cigarette into the black dirty water of the mug. No, that's not it either. This is what actually happened. Jimmy ashes his cigarette, holding his Camel wide between thumb and middle finger, making his index finger bend up and raised high above the burning fag. Jimmy then lowers it slowly down through the air as it descends empty space until it contacts his smoke shaft, which it hits and then bounces away from it, recoiling in a nanosecond, causing the ash on the cherry of the cigarette to detach from the smoke and sail bright red through the air, mindlessly dodging drops of rain, and it hits the floor of the deck, which leaves the black spot on the wet wood, which Jimmy smudges with one of his feet, snugly held in by a sneaker. A tan suede Vans sneaker. The black smudge is not permanent. It will be washed away like sin into the maelstrom of water, splatting down on it and around it until it will disappear from sight and never be seen or heard from again. No, it will not be remembered. Part 6. But just who the hell is Coleman Francis? And so our 3 merry friends go back into the house, going by the phone nook and into the night kitchen. Yes, the 3 weary travelers enter the kitchen. Have mercy upon me, where mounds of snack foods lay on top of counters ridiculously overbought by Hamish Wilbur several hours before at Safeway. Do you have any Dr. Smooth? Asked Jimmy. No more, man. Not anymore. But listen, is anyone hungry? Anybody want anything? I'll eat some later, says Jimmy. Maybe I'll have just one chip, says Eliot. What the hell was I thinking? Why did I buy all this goddamn food? It's ridiculous. You guys never eat anything until later. What a moron, exclaims Hamish Wilbur. You got a bottle opener? Asks Eliot. Eliot brought Fat Tire and bottles. Jimmy brought a large bottle of cider. And Hamish opened another can of his lifeblood, Diet Pepsi. Do you guys want glasses? Asks Hamish. Eliot says, nah. Jimmy says, please. Hamish hands Jimmy a glass. Here you go, Jimmy, says Hamish. A chicken in a cage, shouts Jimmy, referring to the film Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which makes Hamish Wilbur bust a gut. Then, with beverages and not food in hand, it's through the dining room and down the 12 steps of the stairs and down into Hamish Wilbur's basement bedroom, the one with the black carpet. Suddenly, as I write this, my mind shines, and I see you now throwing this book across the room with a loud screeching curse, and I hear you as you call out to me in protest. You scream, but wait. 1 minute there, Skipper. We're all still confused. Just who the hell is Coleman Francis? Who the what? What did you just say to me? You mean, wait, you don't know who Coleman Francis is? And you, the reader, say to me impatiently, well, you said something earlier about how Coleman Francis was a Hollywood bit player, and then you said something like, blah, 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 this island Earth, and that's all. Oh, gentle reader, follow me now down this road, because I have been to the mountaintop. And I've seen the man himself. And I have seen the light, and I've come back. I've come to tell you all what I've seen. Because, lo, in the days before the stalactites and stalagmites, in that time of iniquity and famine, I'm referring, of course, to the 1950s and 60s, the land was ripe with makers of cinematographical art and product. And I say unto you that they did gather together and congregate as one in many in a desert town called Hollywood. And as the old ones prophesied, there would emerge from this desert land of tits and ass and money and corruption and power and bums and whores littering the streets, there would emerge a man. A fat man. Yes, a fat man. The prophet claimed would emerge, whose entire throat was scarred nasty bad by what must have been atomic acne. And this man, this fat man, this dear, earnest man, this man would make a film. Nay, not one film. The prophecy said specifically that he would make 3 films known to those in the know as the Coleman Francis trilogy. You see, old Coleman found himself in Mississippi at the same crossroads Robert Johnson once crossed. And he moved them skulls and formed them into a circle, within which Coleman Francis conjured the living devil himself. The living devil looked down at Cole and said, Yes, Coley? And Coley said, yes, mighty devil, please. And the devil said, I'll give you anything you want, Coleman Francis. Anything you want is yours. My friend, your wish is my command. Coleman Francis didn't have to think at all because he knew what he wanted. It was what he had always wanted. And immediately, upon being asked just what it was he wanted, he said, make me a brilliant film auteur. The living devil paused and thought a moment, and then said to Cole, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. The living devil disappeared, and then seconds later reappeared and said, sorry, Cole. I checked with my people, and we can't do that. The committee says no. But, would you settle for being famous? Coleman Francis thought a moment, and then he asked the devil, what's the catch? The devil told Coleman Francis, the catch is, Coley, that you, sir, will be eternally mediocre. Well, not just mediocre, but incompetent. Well, okay, not just incompetent, but artistically, criminally negligent as a filmmaker. But you'll be remembered forever. How does that sound? Coleman Francis pondered this a moment and then slowly asked the devil, but I will be famous, won't I? The devil laughed and patted Coleman Francis on the back and said, yeah, sure, you'll be famous in your own special way to some people, somewhere, someplace, sometime. And Coleman Francis, his heart filled with butterflies, on instinct shouted out the words, and the living devil grinned wide, knowing well what he had done. And so a contract was presented to Coleman Francis, and Coleman Francis signed this contract in his own blood, writing his name on the infamous dotted line as he took the well-worn left-handed path. But what Coleman Francis didn't know, what nobody involved knew, was the Coleman Francis would not be known or famous in his lifetime. And that this posthumous fame was kept alive by a small group of fanatics, and that's all. The devil's bargain, as always, is a fool's bargain. Coleman? Yeah? Do you want to see Edward's new movie? No, Barbara. Oh, come on. You said you wanted to make a connection with Tor Johnson, and he'll be there at the opening. No, look. Come on, Barbara. Eddie and I want two different things. He just wants to entertain. Well, all that sci-fi and horror shit, even that bullshit juvenile delinquency shit. He doesn't watch Ingmar Bergman or Otto Preminger films. He doesn't read Kierkegaard or Jean Paul Sartre. He doesn't know, honey. Coleman, he makes movies anybody would want to see. Do you actually believe that people want to see existential angst on the silver screen? People want to be entertained, and that's all. I do, Barbara. I do. I want to see existential angst on the silver screen. God, if only I was born in Europe. Well, you got to make something, and something that sells. Wait, what about a compromise? A compromise? What would that be? What if you try and make a genre film, but do it like those European boars? You and Tony Cardozo always talk about just going out and shooting something. Anything just to get going. But I want to do it right. I want to make art. I don't want to just make footage. I want to make King Lear. Not footage of the neighborhood. Of course, I don't mean that I literally want to make King Lear. But you understand what I'm talking about? Then do it. Do it. Make a horror film and have Tor Johnson star in it and do it right. Do it the way you want to do it. The way those European boars do it. That way people will get what they want. A horror movie. But a horror movie that's artsy and existential as well. Yes. Yes. Wait a minute. Wait. I got it. Existential horror. Yes. I see it. I see Tor Johnson. Tor could be a great man. A dignified man whose Promethean punishment for meddling with the laws of nature is to be stripped of his creative persona, his conscious self. He embraces his suddenly exposed total depravity and chooses now to destroy and kill all that cross his path. An animal. A beast. A predator with a thirst for blood. Barbara, it just might work. And thus was birthed the first seed that would grow to fruition into Coleman Francis's first film, The Beast of Yucca Flats, starring Tor Johnson. Coleman Francis was a great guy. He could eat 5 cheeseburgers and 3 large fries and 2 chocolate shakes in one sitting in his customary booth at Bob's Big Boy in West Hollywood. Coleman could sing high C. He wore corduroy jackets with leather patches at the elbows like nobody's business. He had 12 toes. He could dance the pants off Churchill. He yodeled daily and would only wear brown shoes. Don't make it. He could drive on the freeway and change lanes without being afraid. And this was while he lived in Los Angeles. He could play Flight of the Bumblebee on the trumpet in 45 seconds flat. He once played trombone with the New Orleans Ragtime Band. He played chess but never checkers. He knew all about Mesopotamia and in fact wrote the original drafts of all his scripts in cuneiform. He was fluent in Greek and Hebrew and Bulgarian. Rubbing his bare feet on the carpet gave him the greatest pleasure he ever knew, and it made him joyously happy. He was a size 48 in pants. He only wore white socks. When he was 6 years old, he picked up a baby bird and killed it, but then changed his mind and gave it life again and let it fly away. He was morbidly fascinated with cactus flowers and goiters. He was going to do a one-man Richard III, but he couldn't figure out how exactly to do it. He would have made a film based on Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men if someone hadn't made it already. He almost met Marilyn Monroe at the opening of the 7-Year Itch at Grauman's Chinese Theater, where he worked as an usher, but in the end missed his chance at meeting his muse. He almost did a scene with Montgomery Clift, but wasn't in the end cast in the part. He would have directed The Treasure of Sierra Madre had John Huston not made it himself. He would have attended the 1959 Academy Awards ceremony if he had been nominated for an Oscar or made a film that earned money that year. He possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of film history and once said Jack Oakey cracked him up, but Foster Brooks really made him cry with laughter and abandon, especially on those old Dean Martin roasts. He once accused Val Lawton of stealing storyboards from him that he had originally drawn for a film script as of yet not written. And man, above all things, it must be pointed out here and now, he loved him some baked beans. Part 7. Night Train to Mundo Fine. Night Train to Mundo Fine. Hamish Wilbur descends the 12 steps, keep it simple, and enters his chamber, followed by Eliot. "Where's Jimmy?" asks Hamish. "I think he went to the bathroom," says Eliot. "Where's Jimmy?" Let's take that again. Hamish Wilbur descends the 12 steps, keep it simple, and enters his chamber, followed by Eliot. "Where's Jimmy?" asks Hamish. "I think he went to the bathroom," says Eliot. "Oh. Are you sure you don't want anything to eat?" asks Hamish. "Maybe later," says Eliot. "Right." Pause. "Right," says a hesitant Hamish Wilbur. "Are you sure it's okay we're watching a Coleman Francis marathon? Is that okay?" "Sure," says an indifferent Eliot. "Okay, so it's something you'd want to do." "Sure," breathes Eliot. "Okay," stammers Hamish. "Are you sure?" "Yes," shouts Eliot as Jimmy descends into the room, arms spread wide, belting out the song, "Lothar of the Hill People." Hamish and Eliot join in song together, and Jimmy seats himself in the comfy chair. As Hamish sits beside Eliot on the gold couch. "Are you ready?" asks Hamish. "No, hold on. I'm going to take off my shoes," says Jimmy. "Can you get the light?" asks Eliot. Hamish does so by reaching back behind him and flipping off the switch. "Where's the remote?" asks Jimmy. "There isn't one," says Hamish. "I'll get it." Hamish gets up and crouches in front of the TV and VCR, one stacked on the other. Hamish checks if the TV's turned on, and it is. He takes out the videotape to see if it's rewound, and it is. He puts the tape back into the black VCR and presses play. On the screen is static, and then it's all black. Then our three friends know it's time for their favorite TV show of all time, Mystère Séance Théâtre 3000. You see, my children, there once existed a planet Schmanet, and the people on the planet Schmanet called the planet Schmanet Earth. Now, on this planet Schmanet called Earth, there was, in fact, a guy. And this guy's name was Holy Moly Hopscotch Jr. Now, back in those days, there was an Institute Dementia of science, chemistry, biology, inventions of all shapes and sizes, and all that jazz. They studied space, or as they often called it, spec, and stars, and black holes, and they also studied the Earth and the unquenchable fire below the ground. And they puzzled their brains with unimportant conundrums of logic and reality, and other dimensions for that matter. They even studied these tiny subatomic particles. These brave men and women studied and invented, and then studied more and invented more, and so on and so forth. The building of Institute Dementia of Science stood 50 floors high, and all 50 floors were dedicated to studying science and inventing new technology. But little did they know that among the good folks studying and inventing, there were two mad scientists hidden among them like wolves in sheep's clothing. Which happens to include green lab coats and black uniforms. There were two doctors. They were not more than coiled snakes filled with insanity and evil. They existed in the personifications of two male scientists, Dr. Steve Toreador and Dr. Larry Ebenhart, and they both shared the dream, the nightmare that was their one quest: total fascist world domination. This thing goes on. Oddly enough, their idea that complicated experiments, which they became known for, which involves the media and the message, it itself is the message. In the media's effects on the cerebral cortex, the mammal brain, and the lizard brain, and the prefrontal cortex, and the medulla oblongata, and the frontal lobes, yes, they studied media effects on the human brain. They postulated, there's a fly. They postulated that they themselves, Dr. Steve and Dr. Larry, the two men implicit in this deed, could take over the world by experimenting with exposing patients to various clips of media to see how it affects the brain. Then, one day, Dr. Larry disappeared and was never heard from again, and was replaced by televisionist Frankus, who would become his assistant, muse, and friend. On the arrival of televisionist Frankus, Dr. Steve changed the experiment he had been performing with Dr. Larry. Now he would isolate one person and show them movies bad past the point of comprehension. Dr. Steve chooses Holy Moly Butterscotch Jr., who is instantly shanghaied and sent to solitary confinement on an orbiting spaceship. They show him film atrocity after film atrocity. They show film atrocity after film atrocity to this their lab rat, and they study his brain to see if there exists any changes, positive or negative. But what is the most interesting to Dr. Steve and televisionist Frankus is the idea that big experiments exposing human beings to the steady diet of really bad movies would allow the doctors to gain control of the patients' minds, brainwashing them so they would be nothing but astro zombies that would serve Dr. Steve, and Dr. Steve would surely soon, at long last, rule the world. Regardless of all this, they decided to go ahead with the experiment. But one question arises above all others to them. Who would they choose as their first victim? The second question they posed to one, the other, and to the other the one, was, where would we keep him in captivity? Where could such an evil nightmare be reaped upon the earth? Who? Who could they use? Well, about that time, a certain man came on the scene. A laid-back dude, really creative, and with a true free spirit. And this man was named Holy Moly Butterscotch Jr., as I previously pointed out before. And they were down deep, 13 layers below the surface of the earth. The mad scientists had burrowed down deep into the ground from under the basement of the Institute Dementia. Level 13 was the underground lab they created way down in the hole. And as it happened, ladies and gentlemen, they shanghaied Holy Moly Butterscotch Jr., who was shot into outer space in a spaceship all alone. Before this was decided, though, televisionist Frankus turned to Dr. Steve and said to him, Mein Fuhrer, when will we begin this, our most excellent experiment? Dr. Steve smiles at televisionist Frankus. Why, it's simple, mein Herr, says Dr. Steve to televisionist Frankus. We must send him into space on our spaceship, on our satellite, and show him queso film stinkies way up there in space. Televisionist Frankus grins wide. That is good. Yes, yes, excellent, utters televisionist Frankus. Yes, I'm in agreement with you. And so they picked none other than Holy Moly Hopscotch Jr. and plopped him in this satellite and shot him from the Earth into outer space. We will send that fool queso film stinkies, the worst there is. We'll force him to watch them all, and we'll monitor his vulnerable brain. Remember always that Holy Moly Butterscotch Jr. could no longer control when the queso film stinkies play, but he will try to stay sane with a lot of help and understanding from his friends, who are all robots. Robot friends roll call. Camera Freunde, Gypsum Freunde, Tom Freunde, Cree Freunde. If you try to figure out the practical logistics of this, you're shit out of luck and should probably sit back and enjoy the show already. Twang. That was Viva Coleman Francis. Thanks for listening.